Mr. Secretary, will now begin a series of, I see 7-minute questions, according to my clock. I think one of the most difficult things this committee will have to deal with is this rather unusual request to set aside a significant portion of funding that would be used, as you mentioned, in the case of certain thresholds being crossed. It makes it a little hard to have full transparency about the efficacy of the underlying budget request, because, as you said, you would be using some of those dollars, for instance, to supplement USCIS processes. And so I think this is an ongoing conversation we're going to have to use. I'm not sure that we're doing our job as a committee if we are sort of handing a very big chunk of unearmarked dollars to the department. But I wanted to ask you specifically about the plan that the president has announced regarding a new process for asylum as a means to try to better manage the numbers that are presenting at the border today but are expected to come to the border when Title 42 is lifted. This new process contemplates that individuals will apply before they arrive at the United States, or they will set up an appointment, and if they don't, they will either be returned to their home country or back across the border to Mexico. Where do you lack funding? Where are the parts of the budget that you are going to need the most significant additions in order to implement that new process and that new pending rule? The rule's gotten flack from the left, it's gotten flack from the right. That probably means it's worth considering. But where are you under-resourced if you were successful in implementing the president's new plan?
Mr. Chairman, if I could take a step back for just a moment. The model that we are implementing is a model of building safe, orderly, and lawful pathways to come to the United States to make a claim for humanitarian relief under the laws that Congress passed, and to deliver a consequence for individuals who do not avail themselves of that safe, orderly, and lawful pathway. We announced on January 5th such a model for Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan migrants, and we have seen through that program a 95% drop in the number of individuals from those 4 countries arriving at our southern border in between the ports of entry. That is the model that we are building on, and that is what this rule, this proposed rule, provides. It is indeed that, a proposed rule. We sought public comments. The public comment period, I think, closed this past Monday. Here, too, we're seeking to cut out the smugglers for the very compelling reasons that Ranking Member Britt articulated. We see too much suffering, too much tragedy at the hands of those smuggling organizations. The budget, the financial needs that we have to really fund this program, as well as all programs that we are implementing, is across the board. We need more asylum officers in U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. We need more Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol agents, and Office of Field Operations officers. We need more Homeland Security investigation agents alike, because one cannot take a look at this program in isolation. It is part of the mosaic of the challenge of immigration that we are encountering as we seek to administer a system that is fundamentally broken.
Thank you for that, and look forward to working with you on that request. Let me talk to you about fentanyl for a moment. A bipartisan delegation just came back from Mexico City. We spent about 4 hours with the Mexican president. We pressed him on offers of cooperation that we have made to his government to try to work together on identifying precursor shipments and fentanyl labs so that we can take joint action, or so that the Mexican government can take action. If we were to dramatically upscale resources to HSI and to the other capabilities that you provide in cooperation to and with the Mexican government, could you spend it? Or are you having a tough time convincing President Lopez Obrador and his team to do the kind of cooperative activity that we know will be effective in identifying fentanyl before it reaches our border?
Mr. Chairman, this is the single greatest challenge we face as a country. more than 70,000 people, Americans, died last year from fentanyl overdose deaths. I think it was 57,800 died in 2020, in the last year of the Trump administration. This is a scourge that has been years long, and we are bringing the fight to the cartels. We are working cooperatively with our Mexican counterparts. We can spend the money, and the money is vitally necessary to resource our fight against the scourge of fentanyl. We have transnational criminal investigative units that Homeland Security Investigations special agents work with their Mexican counterparts. We are increasing the ability of Mexico to secure its seaport, because its seaport receives precursor chemicals and manufacturing equipment from the People's Republic of China for the manufacture of fentanyl. We can spend the money, we need the funding, and the fiscal year 24 budget that the President has presented does indeed resource this department.
I hope that you're right. I mean, I think if past is predicate, we have had difficulty in convincing the Mexican government to take our offers. I felt that the President was very open, I think, in a new and helpful way, and I think we'll look forward to working with you on that. I have one final question. It's this. There's a lot of questions that get thrown around at hearings like this to ask you and others who appear before us to define the conditions at the border. Sometimes the question is the border secure? Sometimes the question is, do we have operational control at the border? I think those words mean something different to everybody, and so I think it's a difficult conversation to have. But how do you define whether the border is secure, whether we have operational control at the border? How do you talk to the public about the state of security at the border today?
Mr. Chairman, indeed, different people provide different assessments. There is no question that the security of the southern border is an extraordinary challenge. We cannot understate the severity of the challenge. That challenge is not unique to the southern border of the United States. That is a challenge that countries throughout our hemisphere are encountering and grappling with. And I cite Colombia as a powerful example. The population of Venezuela is approximately 28 million people, approximately 8 million of whom have fled the country that is their home, and Colombia is host to approximately 2.5 million of them. This, we are seeing movement of Peruvians, Ecuadorians, Dominicans, Chileans. We are seeing a movement of people throughout the hemisphere that is the greatest migration in our region since World War II. The way I make the assessment, I do not, of course, I enforce the law. That is my responsibility. It has been a responsibility that I have proudly carried and fulfilled for my nearly 23 years of public service, the first 12 of which I served as a federal prosecutor. So, of course, I enforce the law of the Secure Fence Act of 2006 and every other law that Congress has passed. But the Secure Fence Act of 2006 defines operational control as a prevention of all unlawful entries at our border. That means that one single gotaway means it would equal the failure to have operational control of our border. And so under that definition, no administration has ever had operational control. So what I try to do in communicating to the public is be practical and speak to them in a way that they could understand, so that not every single administration has to throw its hands up and say we've never had operational control. I speak of maximizing the resources that we have to deliver the most effective results.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary.